So this is a we'll do a quick video analysis of Harry Wiltshire. He's a pro triathlete. He came to the Woodlands to train with Magnolia Masters for, he was here about 4 or 5 weeks before Kona. Used it as kind of a base to prep for the race. And so this was the first, the video, this front side video is the first video when he got here, kind of in the first couple days, I think, of when he got here. So you can see Harry's got, kind of an ITU stroke. That's his background. You can see that it's very much a shoulder-driven on that left side and a hip-driven stroke more on the right side. We'll talk about later kind of why that's going on and how it's kind of pretty common within the triathlon world to see kind of a shoulder-driven stroke or to this kind of hybrid hip-driven, shoulder-driven stroke and why. But we'll keep on looking at a stroke. So here's kind of a front view above water. Him swimming. So if you want to see why Harry's really good at what he does and why he was able to come first out of the water in Kona, you can see here that even with all this kind of shoulder-driven stroke with a lot of momentum coming over the top, he lands right there, shoulder width apart, keeping everything moving forward. And then you can see the same thing even with this hip-driven stroke on the right side, again, right in line with the shoulder. And that's what we want to do to keep that momentum going forward. We don't want to have to correct for anything, any momentum that's really non-linear. We want to keep everything really going forward. So we'll keep on going. So here's kind of a side view of Harry. And here you'll get to really see what I was talking about earlier with the hip-driven, kind of shoulder-driven stroke and why. So if you think about, the first thing you want to think about is in swimming, just like in running, there's a cross connection between the right shoulder and the left hip, and the left hip, or excuse me, the right hip and the left shoulder. So it's cross-connected like that. So typically, you want to see that the shoulders and the hips are moving together, and there's a really great connection through the core. So the core is providing a lot of stability and power for the stroke. And it all kind of centers around those hips in swimming when you want to be really efficient. So here we'll move it forward again. So you can see Harry, there's a lot of movement on that left side. So look kind of right in there. There's a lot of movement going on that left side. But then when we back it up again, and what I want you to do is focus now on the right side of Harry. So you can see there's a lot of movement on the left side, hip going up and down with the stroke and the shoulders. On the right side, it stays fairly flat. For Harry, he's got some issues kind of around his glutes, especially that right glute, that is more than likely preventing him from firing that hip on that side. And I typically see this a lot with triathletes where there's so much running and biking happening, and those hips are just really, really tight. The hip flexors are tight. Everything in that hip area is just tight or kind of not firing really well. And so it becomes difficult then for triathletes to get better in swimming when the hips are that tight and it becomes just a shoulder-driven stroke. Harry's done a really great job of adapting to kind of what he's dealing with right now to still produce an efficient stroke. But he's got a lot of time in the water. He's a talented athlete, and then we'll see some more stuff down the road where you get to see where he's doing stuff really well. So here's kind of the underwater right side view. You'll get to really see why he's doing stuff well. So we back it up here, and what we can see is his hand enters, and he's really got that hand in a position to catch the water. It's probably a little bit extreme right there where it's already pointing straight down right when he gets in the water. But it's partly because of the speed of his tempo, which is he's got a fairly high tempo for a triathlete. It's about, I mean, he was as fast as 1.0 to 1.1. I had him, we worked on getting it up more to about 1.2 while he was here. And I think in Kona, during the swim, he was somewhere between 1.3 and 1.4. Most of the guys in that front pack in Kona are anywhere from about 1.4 to about 1.6. So Harry's on the really fast end of that tempo. So the other thing that you can see here is Harry does a really great job of getting that wrist below the elbow, elbow below shoulder. So right from the very beginning, he's got a really great position on the water to catch and pull it forward. So then as we go forward, you can see he still keeps that elbow relatively high, digs in with that shoulder and those hips, and pulls the water through. I think there's probably, if we're looking, one of the ways Harry could make him pick up a little bit of time is you can see that right now he's looking pretty much straight forward. And what that's going to do is that's going to impact that back end. So once we get past here, so you can see here with the back end, he's got a slight kind of downward angle from the shoulders back to the hips. And that's just because that he's looking straight forward. And we can see kind of right here, it's this gap between kind of his hips and the top of the water line. And that's even with, he's got a pull buoy on right here. So his back end's still a little bit low. He's doing a really great job, though, of getting on top of the water at the front of the stroke and levering the water. Although you can argue that he's giving up a little bit because he's shrinking his water line and creating a little bit more drag than he needs to. So we'll continue to go forward. So here's the left side view underwater. And you can see as he goes by, there's, just a little bit of slippage on the water, and that's partly due to that angle at the back end. So here's a really good shot, though, of why Harry's doing as well as he does. So if we look here, we'll kind of point out where the midline is. So there's midline. And, just like when you entering the water with the stroke, you don't want to cross that midline. You want to kind of be shoulder width apart. Here you can skirt the midline, and that's where you're going to get a lot of power in the water. So you can see here, we'll back it up a little bit. So Harry comes in, he's right on the midline, pulls through, and then again, he's going to pull through. We talked about this a little bit, which was, if you could see that he crossed that midline on the right side when he took a breath. And if we go back, you can see kind of he comes in, skirts the midline when he's not breathing, skirts the midline when he's not breathing. And then when he takes that breath, if you're not paying attention, and I see this a lot, if you're paying attention more to the breath than you are to what this hand is doing, you'll see that slip right there a lot. So, again, Harry has a really fantastic stroke. Obviously was able to convert it into a great swim in Kona. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give me a call. Thanks.